Hi everyone, it's Scott from Math Logos. In this lesson, we're going to look at solving equations from context, and we're going to try and be quite thorough with all the different examples that we look at. So let's jump into our first one. It says the sum of 3 times a number and 7 is 22. Find the number. And oftentimes it's helpful to start the question by saying, let the number be equal to x. So let me just write that. Give me 1 second. Okay, so as you can see, I started with this sentence, let the number be x. This introduces a variable, it introduces some algebra, and it allows us to work a little bit easier to find our answer. The question says the sum of 3 times a number. Well, 3 times the number would be 3x. And the sum in maths means we're adding together. So the sum of 3 times the number and 7, so we're adding together the 3 times the number and 7, is 22. In other words, it's equal to 22. So this allows us to form a two-step equation in order to solve for x, which is the original number. We can subtract 7 from both sides to undo the addition of 7. That leaves us with 3x is equal to 15 on the right-hand side, sorry. Then we divide both sides by 3, and that leaves us with x on the left-hand side, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. But what we can do to check our answer is to put it back into the question. The sum of 3 times the number, so we're saying 3 times our number 5, and 7 should be equal to 22. 3 times 5 is 15, add 7 should be equal to 22. Well, 15 and 7 is 22, if I know that I've done that question correctly. Here's one for you to give a go. All right, let's run through it. The sum of 4 times a number and 5 is 29. Find the number. We'll start it in the same way. Give me 1 second to write out the sentence that we used to start. So we'll start it like this, let the number be x. We're looking at the sum of 4 times the number. Well, 4 times the number is 4x. Sum, like we said, means to add, and 5 is what we're adding to the number, and that is equal to 29. Subtract 5 from both sides. That leaves you with 4x is equal to 24. And then we're doing 4 multiplied by x, so to undo that, I'm going to divide both sides by 4. That leaves me with x is equal to 6. My number is 6. The next example is a worded problem. We want to solve it using algebra. Let's jump into it. A cinema ticket costs £2 more than a bus ticket. Ben buys one of each and pays £13 in total. Let's think about each of these tickets. So we've got cinema tickets, and we've also got bus tickets. And it says the cinema ticket costs £2 more than the bus ticket. So what I could do is I could let the bus ticket be x, and if the cinema ticket costs £2 more than the bus ticket, the cinema ticket is going to be x add 2. It says Ben buys one of each, so he gets a cinema ticket and a bus ticket, and pays £13 in total. What that means is if I add together the cost of the cinema ticket in terms of x and the bus ticket in terms of x, that is going to be equal to £13. I'll collect together my x terms, so I've got x and x. Well, that gives me 2x. I've still got the adding 2. Then I subtract 2 from both sides and just solve the two-step equation. This is the easy part. 13 subtract 2 is 11. And then I need to divide both sides by 2. So x is equal to 11 divided by 2. Well, let's do that off to the side because it's non-calculator. So 2 goes into 11 5 times to give us 10 with 1 left over. 2 goes into 10 5 times. So x is equal to 5.5. Let's just put it in the context of the question. It says, how much was the cinema ticket? Well, the cinema ticket was x add 2, and we know that x is 5.5. So I could say that the cinema ticket is x, which is 5.5, add 2. Which is equal to 7.5. Now it's a ticket, talking about money, so my final answer would be £7.50. We want to leave our money to 2 decimal places like that, so 7.50. Okay, pause the video and give this question a go. Let's go through it. A sandwich costs £1 less than a drink. Isabel buys both and spends £15. How much was the sandwich? Let's look at the cost of the sandwich in terms of x and the drink in terms of x as well. It says a sandwich costs £1 less than the drink. So let's start by making our drink equal to x, and our sandwich is £1 less than that. So it would be x subtract 1. Isabel buys both, so she gets a sandwich and she adds on a drink as well. and spends £15. In other words, this is equal to 15. Collect together your x terms, so x and x is 2x. So I have 2x subtract 1 on the left-hand side, and that's equal to 15. That's a two-step equation, so add 1 to both sides of the equation, leaving you with 2x is equal to 16, and then divide both sides by 2. Well, 16 divided by 2 is 8, so x is equal to 8. Just make sure you're always answering the question. So if you go back and see what x was, well, x was the drink, so we know that this is equal to 8. So x subtract 1 must be equal to 7. So we want to go back and make sure we've actually answered the question. How much was the sandwich? Well, the sandwich was £7. If you're enjoying this video so far, please drop a like to the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for that. So our next examples involve some shapes. Let's have a look. A rectangle is 5 centimeters longer than it is wide. The perimeter of the rectangle is 26 centimeters. Find the area of the rectangle. I'm going to start by assigning a variable to my width. I'm going to say let x be the width. Give me a second to write that. So let x be the width. I can then draw that onto my diagram. So my widths of my rectangle is x. Then I'll go back to my first line, see if I can get anything else. It says a rectangle is 5 centimeters longer than it is wide. So that means that the length is x add 5, like that. We'll move on to the second line. The perimeter of the rectangle is 26 centimeters. What that means is if I add up all of these sides, and this one as well, they should be equal to 26. So what I can say is the perimeter is equal to x, add x, add x add 5, add x add 5. And all I have to do there is collect together my x terms, my number terms. X add x is 2x, that's 3x, that's 4x. And then I'll add together my numbers, so that's 5 and another 5, well that gives me 10. My perimeter is equal to 4x add 10. I also know that the perimeter of the rectangle is 26 centimeters. What I can do is I can let 4x add 10 be equal to 26. And then I solve this two-step equation. So subtract 10 from both sides, giving you 4x equals 16, and then divide both sides by 4, x equals 4. So I don't want to stop there and assume that I finished the question. It says find the area of the rectangle. To find the area of the rectangle, I need to do the width multiplied by the length. Well, the width is x, which we said was 4, and the length is x add 5, so it would be 4 add 5, which is 9. So now that I've got the width and the length, I can work out the area. The area of a rectangle is its length multiplied by its width. The length we said was 9 centimeters, and the width we said was 4 centimeters. 9 multiplied by 4 is 36. And I'll do a quick unit check. Given that the lengths are in centimeters, I know area has squared units, so my units are centimeters squared. And that's my answer. Give this one a go. I'd recommend drawing a diagram of a rectangle to help you do it. Okay, let's go through it. A rectangle has a length that is twice its width. Let's start by saying let x be the width. Okay, and once I've got that, I can then draw that onto my diagram. So the width of the rectangle is x. It says a rectangle has a length that is twice its width. So that means the length is going to be 2x, like this. It then says the area of the rectangle is 50 centimeters squared. So the area is the length multiplied by the width. Well, the length is 2x and the width is x. So 2x multiplied by x is 2x squared. And it also says the area of the rectangle is 50 centimeters squared. So we can then say 2x squared is equal to 50, like this. We'll divide both sides of that equation by 2, so I'll come up here and I'll say that x squared is equal to 25. And then I'll square root both sides. That leaves me with x is equal to the square root of 25. The square root of 25 is 5. Now you might have noticed from previous lessons, the square root of 25 can have two answers, both positive 5 and negative 5. But we're going to discard the negative 5 in this case because we can't have negative lengths. Then it says calculate the perimeter of the rectangle. And there's different ways we can do that. We can say that this side is 5 and this side is 2 times 5, so it's 10. This side's obviously 5 as well, and this side's 10 too. The other way to do it is I could add up all of my x's around the outside. So I've got x, add 2x, add 2x. So the perimeter is equal to, well, x and x is 2x, another 2x is 4x, and another 2x is 6x. And I know the value of x, so I'm doing 6 times x. Well, I know that x is 5. So it's 6 multiplied by 5, which is 30. And then we just want to check our units. Because it's perimeter, perimeter is a length. That means my units are centimeters in this case. Okay, here's our next worded example. Tom is twice as old as Sarah. In 5 years, the sum of their ages will be 43. What age is Sarah? So there's two different time periods occurring in this question. We're talking about the present moment, where Tom is twice as old as Sarah, and then we're talking about 5 years later. So let's consider the present. So it's helpful to write these things in words so that we can keep track of our working out, and also so that other people can read it and understand it as well. So in the present, Tom is twice as old as Sarah. Well, let's let Sarah be X years old. And if Tom is twice as old, that means Tom is 2x years old at the minute. It then says in 5 years' time, the sum of their ages will be 43. So let's say consider in 5 years. If Sarah was X years old in the present, in 5 years' time, well, she's going to be X add 5. And if Tom is currently 2x, well, in 2 years' time, he's going to be 2x add 5. So they'll both have gained 5 years like that. The next part of that sentence says the sum of their ages will be 43. So when it says sum, it means if I add together their ages, that'll be equal to 43. So let's take Sarah's age, which is x add 5, and we'll take Tom's age, which is 2x add 5, and that's going to be equal to 43. We can then solve this equation. Let's add together our x terms. X and 2x is 3x, and 5 and 5 is 10. That's equal to 43. Subtract 10 from both sides, so 3x is equal to 33. Divide both sides by 3, x is equal to 11. Our question asks, what age is Sarah? And when it says what age is Sarah, it's talking about the present, and that was x. So we don't have to do anything to get our answer. We just have to say Sarah is 11 years old. So Sarah is 11 years old, and I've answered my question. Here's one for you to give a go. Let's go through it. A father is 3 times as old as his son. In 4 years, their total age will be 52. What age will his son be in 4 years' time? So again, we've got two different time periods. We've got the present and in 5 years. Let's consider the present to start with. And it says the father is 3 times as old as the son. So let's let the son be x. And what that means is the father is 3 times that. So the father is 3x. That's the present. And then it says in 4 years. So let's consider in 4 years. We can be quite free with the way we write it as long as we're making it clear what we're doing. Well, the son is going to have gained 4 years. So he's now going to be x add 4. The father is going to be 3x add 4, like this. In 4 years, their total age will be 52. That means I need to add their ages together at this point. So if I do x add 4, add 3x add 4, that's going to be equal to 52. We'll tidy up our left-hand side. X and 3x is 4x, and 4 and 4 is 8, and that's equal to 52. I'm going to run out of room, but I can take away 8 from both sides, giving me 4x is equal to 44. And then I can divide both sides by 4, and that gives me an answer of x is equal to 11. So same answer as the last question, so I might be tempted to stop here, but if I actually read the question, it says, what age will the son be in 4 years' time? So the son in the present is x years old, he's 11 years old, but that's not what the question asked me. It asked me, what age will the son be in 4 years' time? So that's down here, x add 4 is 15, so he'll be 15 years old. And let's just write that in words so that we've answered the question. So I'll say he will be 15 years old. Our next question involves angles in a triangle. Let's jump into it. The angles in an isosceles triangle are shown. Find the range in the size of the angles. First off, we've got an isosceles triangle. And what that means is we've got 2 angles that are the same. So 2 angles same. And we've also got 2 sides that are the same, but that's not going to be helpful in this question because we're not interested in the sides. I then want to think, well, what angles are the same? Well, it's this one and this one. And if these angles are the same, then it actually means that they're equal. So I'll let them be equal to each other. 2x subtract 10 is equal to x add 20. And I've found something that I can continue with, so I can solve this equation. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'll subtract x from both sides. That leaves me with x subtract 10 on the left and 20 on the right. I can then add 10 to both sides. That leaves me with x is equal to 30. It says find the range in the size of the angles. Now these 2 angles are the same, so the difference between them is going to be 0. I want to work out this angle up here. Let's call it y. And in order to work out y, I need to use the fact that angles inside a triangle sum to 180 degrees. But before I do that, I actually want to work out what these two bottom angles are equal to. And I only need to work out one of them because they're both the same. So let's consider our x add 20. Well, that's going to be equal to 30 add 20, which is equal to 50. So this angle is 50 degrees, and this angle is also 50 degrees. I'll then use the other fact I know about triangles. I know that the angles in a triangle sum to 180. I know that the 50 angle and the other 50 angle and the y angle that I want to find is equal to 180 degrees. 50 and 50 is 100. So 100 add y is equal to 180. Subtract 100 from both sides gives me an answer of y is equal to 80 degrees. But I'm still not done my question because it says find the range in the size of the angles. The range refers to the difference between the largest and the smallest angles. So off to the side, I'll say the range is equal to the largest angle. Well, that's 80 degrees. Subtract these two angles, which are 50 degrees each. 80 subtract 50 is equal to 30 degrees. Now, obviously, this diagram is not to scale because that does not look like an 80-degree angle. But that's the answer to my question. The range is 30 degrees. Pause the video and try this one. It says one angle in a triangle is 3 times as large as the smallest angle, and the other angle is twice as large as the smallest angle. Let's let the smallest angle be x. So I'll say the smallest angle is x. Then we've got this middle angle, so we'll come back to that in a second. And then we've got a large angle, the largest as well. The one angle in a triangle is 3 times as large as the smallest. So that would be the largest one. And if it's 3 times as large as the smallest, it would be 3x. And the other angle is twice as large as the smallest. So that would be 2x. So those are my angles. It says show that the triangle is right angled. I'm going to use the fact that I know that my angles inside a triangle sum to 180 degrees. So I'll add up my 3 angles and set that equal to 180. Then I'll collect together my x terms on the left-hand side. X and 2x is 3x, and another 3x is 6x. So 6x is 180. Then I'll divide both sides by 6. So that gives me x on the left. And 18 divided by 6 is 3. So 180 divided by 6 is 30. My questions asked me to show that the triangle is right angled. Now, a right angled triangle has one of the angles that is 90 degrees. So that's what I want to show. Let's go back to each of my angles and work out what they actually are. Well, x we said was 30 degrees. 2x therefore would be 60 degrees. And 3x would be 90 degrees. So in a show that question, you want to write a conclusion to the question. And I've done that below. I've said the largest angle is 90 degrees, so it is a right angled triangle. Our next example says, a mobile plan has a fixed £10 monthly fee plus £2 per gigabyte of data. Jack's monthly bill was £440. How much data did he use? Let's just unpack the meaning of this question very quickly. The mobile plan has a fixed £10 monthly fee. What that means is he has to pay £10 every month, but it doesn't increase with the amount of data that he uses. However, it then says plus £2 per gigabyte of data. So for every gigabyte of data he uses, he has to add on £2 multiplied by however many gigabytes he uses. When we're forming an equation from context, we want to identify what our variable is, what is the unknown we want to find out, and let that be equal to x. The last line of our question tells us what the unknown is. It says how much data did he use. So we're going to let x be the number of gigabytes of data. We'll then go back to our question and try and form an equation based on what we've been given. It says that there's a £10 monthly fee. So that's fixed. It doesn't increase as the gigabytes of data used increases. But we have to add on £2 for every gigabyte. So £2 multiplied by the number of gigabytes, in other words, 2x. That would be the total cost of his bill each month. And the question does tell us that Jack's monthly bill was £440. So this is equal to 440. Then I'll subtract 10 from both sides. That gives me 430. And then I want to divide both sides by 2. So 430 divided by 2. Let's do that off to the side very quickly. So 430 divided by 2. 2 goes into 4 twice. 2 goes into 3 once with 1 left over. And 2 goes into 10 5 times. So x is equal to 215. Always make sure you put your answer in terms of the context of the question. The question was how much data did he use? My answer was 215, but I need some units. Well, the answer is gigabytes. Try this question and then we'll go through it. A local taxi company charges a £5 booking fee to secure the driver, plus £2 for every mile travelled. Noah took a taxi and his total bill came to £27. How many miles did he travel? Let's start by assigning our unknown. Well, we get that from the last line of the question. How many miles did he travel? So we'll say let x be the number of miles travelled. We can then go into our question and start to form an equation. A local taxi company charges a £5 booking fee. So that's fixed. That's just to secure the driver. Plus, so we have to add on £2 for every mile. So £2 multiplied by the number of miles travelled. Noah took a taxi and his total bill came to £27. So this expression on the left works out as total cost if we know the number of miles. And we know that this is equal to £27. I can then solve this two-step equation. So subtract 5 from both sides and then divide both sides by 2. X is equal to 11. I then just want to check that I've actually answered the question. How many miles did he travel? Well, we said let x be the number of miles travelled, and we worked out what x was. So the answer is he travelled 11 miles. I put that in a sentence, and that's my answer. Our next example has lots of stuff going on. Let's get into it. Sam and Ryan are both plumbers. Sam charges £35 per hour of work. Ryan charges a fixed call-out fee of £40 plus £25 per hour of work. For 8 hours of work, the total cost for both plumbers is the same. Form and solve an equation to find x. So they've already assigned the variable for us. That's the number of hours of work after which they're the same cost. Let's then look at how much Ryan and Sam would cost respectively. So let's look at Sam first. It says Sam charges £35 per hour. So he's going to be 35 multiplied by h. That's the number of hours. And then we'll look at Ryan. So Ryan charges a fixed call-out fee of £40. So he costs £40 regardless of how many hours. So I'm not going to multiply that by h. But it then says plus £25 per hour. So I do then have to add on £25 multiplied by the number of hours. And I get my expression like this. For 8 hours of work, the total cost for both plumbers is the same. So at some point after 8 hours, they are equal to each other in terms of cost. So I can let them be equal to each other. So I can let 35h be equal to 40, add 25h. I then want to collect all my variables onto the left-hand side. So I'll subtract 25h from both sides. That leaves me with 10h on the left-hand side is equal to 40. I'll then divide both sides by 10. So that leaves me with h is equal to 4. So I need to put that answer in the context of the question. And h in this case is the number of hours they would need to work for them both to cost the same amount of money. So I've said Sam and Ryan cost the same at 4 hours worked. Pause the video and give this question a go. Let's look at Danny's cost and Simon's cost in turn. Danny charges a fixed hiring fee of £110. That's £110 regardless of how many hours he works, plus £30 per hour of labour. So 30 multiplied by h, the number of hours worked. Then let's look at Simon. So Simon charges £300. That's regardless of the number of hours he works, plus £20 per hour, so 20h. We then want to set these equal to each other. So 110 add 30h is equal to 300 add 20h when they cost the same. I then want to bring over my h terms to my left-hand side because that's where there's more of them. So I'll take away 20h from both sides. That's going to leave me with 110 add 10h is equal to 300. Then subtract your 110 from both sides to get your h's on one and your numbers on the other. That leaves me with 10h on the left-hand side. And then I'm going to do 300 subtract 110 off to the side very quickly. 0 subtract 0 is 0. 0 subtract 1 I can't do, so I'll exchange 100 for 10 tens. Then I do 10 subtract 1 to give me 9, and 2 subtract 1 to give me 1. So 300 subtract 110 is 190. Then divide both sides by 10 to work out what h is. So h is equal to 19. We'll then put that in the context of the question. What it means is at 19 hours of work, Simon and Danny would cost the same. Our last example involves shapes. We're going to deal with perimeter and area. Let's have a look. The triangle and the rectangle have the same area. Find the perimeter of the rectangle. What I'd recommend is go through it sentence by sentence and try and pick out information. The triangle and the rectangle have the same area. So I want to start by looking at the area of the rectangle and the area of the triangle. So let's look at the area of the triangle, and we'll look at the area of the rectangle. The area of a triangle is a half multiplied by the base multiplied by the height. In this case, the base is 2x and the height is 6. So I'll do a half multiplied by the base, which is 2x, multiplied by the height, which is 6. A half multiplied by 2x is x, and then need to multiply by 6. Just be careful, you don't need to multiply a half by 2x and a half by 6, because we only need to do that once. And I've done that when I did a half times 2x to give me x. X multiplied by 6 is 6x. The area of the rectangle, well, that's length multiplied by width. In this case, the length is 4 and the width is x add 1. Now I need to be careful to put that in a bracket because I need to do 4 multiplied by x and I need to do 4 multiplied by 1. So 4 multiplied by x is 4x, 4 multiplied by 1 is positive 4. It says the triangle and the rectangle have the same area. So that area of the triangle and that area of the rectangle are equal to each other. So I'll set them equal in the line below. 6x is equal to 4x add 4. I'll then subtract 4x from both sides and solve this equation. That leaves me with 2x is equal to 4. Divide both sides by 2. X is equal to 2. We've been asked to find the perimeter of the rectangle. So I know the length already, it's 4. The width is x add 1. Well, we know x is 2. So 2 add 1 is 3. Then it says find the perimeter. The perimeter is the distance around the outside. So it's this side, add this side, add this side, and also I need to add this side as well. So I can say the perimeter is 4 add 3, add 4 add 3. So the perimeter is 4 add 3, which is 7, add another 4 add 3, which is another 7. 7 and 7 is 14. And I want to check my units. There aren't any in this question, so I'm going to say 14 units, like that. Obviously, if it was centimeters, you'd put in centimeters, meters, meters, and so on. Okay, pause the video and give this question a go. Let's run through it. The triangle and the parallelogram have the same area. Find the width of the parallelogram. Let's look at the area of the triangle and the area of the parallelogram, respectively. So the area of a triangle is a half multiplied by the base, which in this case is 8, multiplied by the perpendicular height, which in this case is x add 2. And I popped a bracket around my x and my positive 2 because I need to multiply both of those. Let's go ahead and deal with that. Well, a half of 8 is 4. I then need to multiply that by x, and I need to multiply that by 2. 4 multiplied by x is 4x, and 4 multiplied by 2 is 8. The area of a parallelogram is the base multiplied by the perpendicular height, so that would just be 5x. And it says the triangle and the parallelogram have the same area, so I need to let those be equal to each other. So 4x add 8 is equal to 5x. Subtract 4x from both sides. Well, that leaves you with this. X is equal to 8. I'll just restate it left to right. Then says find the width of the parallelogram. Well, that's nice and easy because the width is just x and we've worked out that x is 8. If you're using our lesson booklets, you can now complete exercises 1 to 4. Thank you for watching this video.